All right, let's go straight to the phones on Capitol Hill. Congressman Jeb Hensarling is with us. Let's talk immigration and a few other things as well. Morning, Jeb. Welcome. How you doing?
I am doing good, Mark. Thanks for having me back.
Happy New Year to you. I hope the holidays were good. What did you guys do?
The holidays were good. They're always good. Well, we now have an almost 13-year-old with an iPhone who had to sign a contract to get it. And we have an 11-year-old who has a set of drums, so there's no peace in the household.
Oh, my heavens to Betsy. I don't know which one to go to first. First, let's do a little segment called Parenting with Jeb.
I may have already lost that.
Oh, no. This is awesome. What did the contract say?
Well, it was a two-page contract drafted by my wife and myself. The first thing it says is this is not your phone. You get to use the phone, but only if you follow these rules. Permission on the hours that it can be used. No one is texted without our permission. Nothing's posted. It's all kinds of good stuff. And so far she hasn't lost her privileges yet. Yes, of course, Christmas wasn't that long ago.
We're days into the experiment, and hopefully it'll continue to go well. We are days into the experiment of the new Congress, too. And so, can I just ask you one crazy thing before we get into the immigration, which is, and listen, if I'm you, or Boehner or President Obama or anybody, you know the world is full of crazy, goofy people who will say and do anything. Where's the line set on which crazy people we believe? And have you spoken with him, or what's the mood about this Ohio bartender who apparently threatened to, kill Boehner by poisoning a drink? What the heck?
Mark, I just heard about that this morning. It is incredibly disturbing. It is incredibly frightening. There have regrettably been crazy and evil people in our world for quite some time. I don't know if there's more of them today than there were yesterday. I mean that figuratively, not literally. But it is a sobering reminder, again, that there are crazy and evil people in our world, and we're certainly seeing a lot of evil actions by elements of radical Islam and jihadist, and I don't know what was going on with this bartender in Ohio. And again, I just literally heard the news less than an hour ago.
Yeah.
I don't have all the details.
No, I
it's
understand.
Incredibly disturbing.
I was just thinking that probably every other day somebody threatens somebody, and most of the time we just go, oh, that's just Bill, or that's just Crazy Freddie, or something like that. But for some reason, this one ramped up. And you did me a favor of asking the other thing I wanted to ask about. You spoke words that President Obama and his administration never will. Those words are radical Islam. Should he, or at least someone higher level, have gone to this Paris rally?
I don't know if I know the answer to that. I think it was important to show solidarity. I did notice that many heads of state were there. Clearly, our president opted not to go, given the heinous nature of the act, given how many other world leaders were there. I think had I been in the president's position, I think I would have gone.
So let's go now to what you folks in Congress are actually going to do. And one of the first things of attention, there's a ton of things, obviously, on the congressional plate, but the days are ticking down toward February 27th. I know we passed the whole Cromnibus thing that takes us all the way through September in many ways, but Feb 27 is it for the Department of Homeland Security, and they are the people that have it in their purse strings, have it in their budgets to fund the president's unilateral ideas about immigration reform. What do we plan to do about that?
Well, first I would say this, Mark. This is not so much a debate about immigration. It's not so much a debate about Homeland Security. It's not a debate even about amnesty. It is a debate about the Constitution. It is a debate about the rule of law. And we all know we have a president who has his infamous phone. He has an infamous pen. He just lacks a copy of the Constitution. And so what the president has done is brought upon us, we're on the precipice of a constitutional crisis. Because what is very, very clear is that the president has overstepped his constitutional bounds. Ever since the Republicans took over Congress, at the start of each Congress, we read the Constitution on the House floor. And I don't know why I had this honor, but when I took my turn to read my portion of the Constitution, I was accorded Article 1, Section 8, Clause 4, which says the Congress shall have the power to establish a uniform rule of naturalization. It doesn't say the president. It doesn't say the Supreme Court. It says Congress. I had the privilege of reading that for all to hear on the House floor. And so the president is harming the very foundation of our society in the Constitution. He's eroding our checks and balances. He's eroding the separation of powers. We are no longer governed by the rule of law, but we are being governed by the rule of rulers. We have gone from King George to King Barack. This has got to stop. And so we have another section of the Constitution known as Article 1, Section 9, Clause 7, that says no money shall be drawn from the Treasury but in consequence of appropriations made by law. Article 1 is Congress, the people's representatives. And so what we are doing today in the House of Representatives, we are exercising what is commonly known as our power of the purse, exercising the people's power of the purse, and funding the portions of government that need to be funded in the Department of Homeland Security, but not funding the president's unconstitutional power grab to create de facto amnesty for millions of people who came here illegally.
Right,
so we will pass a base bill. We will have several amendments that will end all funding for the president's unconstitutional actions. That's what we're doing today.
This is incredibly valuable. Congressman Jeb Hensarling with us from Texas District 5, because if there was any fund the entire government and yet hold out Homeland Security. But if we held up all of Homeland Security, the instant criticism would be you're leaving us wide open to terror, and this is not a really good time to be doing that.
Well, not only are we funding it, frankly, we are funding it most portions above what the president has requested. I mean, we think that unbridled illegal immigration is not only a threat to our economic opportunity, clearly it's a threat to our national security. So House Republicans, and I trust now Senate Republicans, I look very forward to having our two senators, Cornyn and Cruz, now armed with a majority to carry this fight on in the Senate and make sure that the Senate acts as the House is doing to defund the president's unconstitutional actions here.
And it is
but we are otherwise not only funding what the president has asked for, we are more than funding what the president has asked for.
All right, so it's ultra specific. The wheels of government as they normally roll will roll. The Department of Homeland Security will continue to be funded in every way in which it does its valuable task.
Absolutely.
The sliver,
and the only exception
tell me
is that we're
exactly
not funding the president's unconstitutional actions.
And that leads me to my next question. How do you find that? If I've got a big Homeland Security budget in front of me, what do the things look like? What are the parts that we're actually saying, not this, not that?
Well, we have a series of amendments. One has to do with specifically targeting the president's announced executive amnesty of November 20th. Or we define it as it was defined by the president or a policy that is similar to it. We have an amendment dealing with 4 of the so-called Morton memos issued by then ICE Director John Morton in 2011 and 2012, which essentially guts interior enforcement of our current immigration laws. We have an amendment that specifically targets the DACA applications, and I know that in Washington everybody's infamous for acronyms, but the Deferred Adjudication for Childhood Arrivals, which was the amnesty program that led to this great tragedy on our southern border of children being put in harm's way. The bottom line is, again, this is mainly a debate about the Constitution. But also, if the president refuses to enforce the laws, all it does is invite more illegal immigration. So we target it in those specific ways, Mark.
So this is going to be an interesting showdown. And I'm intrigued about the timing. We're in the middle of January. The deadline is February 27th. A lot of times these things don't really get started until like February 24th in this particular case. So how do you think 6 weeks of this back and forth plays out?
Well, unfortunately, I'm probably uniquely unqualified to answer that specific question. All I know is that House Republicans will take action today. We are hopeful that Senate Republicans will take action very soon. We hope that the president will finally come to his senses. I would hope after the shellacking that he and his party received in the last election, that would at least be sobering to him. I haven't been encouraged by what I have seen. As you well know, the president before the election said that his policies were on the ballot. It's one of the few times I agreed with the president.
Indeed.
And they were thoroughly rejected by the American people. And so the president, again, we didn't elect him king. The Constitution says it is Congress that appropriates these funds. I'm hopeful that the president will not veto this bill. And what's fascinating, I think you also know this, Mark, prior to him doing this, on 20 separate occasions, the president publicly said he did not have the legal authority to do what he now contemplates doing. I guess he just changed his mind.
I guess he did. So let's fast forward a little bit to maybe February 26th, 27th, getting up to the deadline. Are we confident that we can make this case? Maybe this is the wisdom of starting early. We got 6 weeks to make the case to the American people that we are funding the entire government. We're funding the entire Department of Homeland Security, except for the slivers of line items that refer to this improper and unconstitutional usurpation of authority by the president. You know that if they draw the line in the sand, they will point to you and every Republican and say, you guys are shutting down the government on this threadbare premise. What will you then say?
I know what they will say, and you're right. It's the reason to start early is to make sure that the American people have the facts. I believe that the American people are smart. If you give them the facts, they will normally do the right thing. We have 6 weeks to make our case to the American people. The only person who's threatening any type of shutdown has been the president. And so the entirety of the government, with the exception of the Department of Homeland Security, has been funded for the rest of the fiscal year, and we are now offering a bill that actually increases funding even above what the president has requested for the Department of Homeland Security. And so now the debate is narrowly focused on, has the president exceeded his constitutional bounds? That's the most important issue. And the secondary issues, which are also very important, is should we be giving amnesty to millions and millions of illegal immigrants when there are so many who have come here legally, waited in lines, rolling up their sleeves, wanting to work hard? We're a nation of immigrants. We always have been. We always should be. We just want them to come here legally.
Drawing a line of clarity in his home with teenage cell phones and in the halls of Congress on immigration, it's Jeb Hensarling. Best to you and the family, Jeb. Thank you. I look forward to a year of conversations with you here in 2015 that are eventful and inspiring, and I just appreciate you so much. Thanks for being on the program.
Thank you, Mark.
You bet. That's